video.
Hi, I'm Jann Arden, host of the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize. And what I'm doing here right now in the television industry, we like to call a pre-tape.
And I'm Rick Mercer, and I'm a previous host of the Scotiabank Giller Prize. And I guess in the TV business, you would call me a special guest.
And what Rick is doing here today is I'm going to pick his brain, get the inside scoop on what to expect from the Giller Prize.
Fire away.
If Margaret Atwood happens to be in the audience, what do I do?
Never look her in the eye.
Why?
She will knock you down.
I've heard that. It's not good. Scotiabank.
That would be your sponsor.
Okay. How often should I mention them?
13 times.
13 times per show or per minute?
See, you've got this figured out already. Have you read the Giller Prize nominated books?
I have read of them, and I'm also very up to speed on all the reviews, and I've seen color photographs of all the authors.
Well, I'm not surprised. It is the Giller Awards. All of these books are amazing. You should buy all of these books. But what I want to know is, what are you looking forward to tonight?
Prize money.
It's amazing. $100,000. It's Canada's
richest literary prize.
An author will walk away with $100,000. I mean, have you ever just given away $100,000?
Only to Revenue Canada, so this will be a lot better.
You're made for this award. Think of it. People love you as a singer-songwriter, as a sitcom star. Dancer, but also you are a best-selling Canadian author.
I am really living the dream.
You're gonna be great. Happy Gillers.
Happy Gillers.
Live from Toronto, it's the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize on CBC, presented commercial-free by Scotia Wealth Management. During the next hour, the author of one of these 6 extraordinary books will walk away with the biggest prize in Canadian fiction. Join us at the Four Seasons Hotel in Toronto for the biggest party in literature, featuring such celebrated Canadians as literary icon Margaret Atwood, the star of Kim's Convenience, Paul Sun-Hyung Lee, critically acclaimed novelist and screenwriter John Irving, from Frankie Drake Mysteries, Sharon Matthews, and from Killjoys, Tom Allison, the new host of The Current, Matt Galloway, the host of Q on CBC Radio, Tom Power, and Q book columnist Jael Richardson, and previous prize winners Dr. Vincent Lamb, Michael Redhill, and Essia Dujan. Tonight, we celebrate the very best in Canadian books and find out who will take home the $100,000 Scotiabank Giller Prize. Now, please welcome your host for the evening, singer, actor, and author, Jann Arden.
Hello, and welcome everyone to the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize. I am so very happy to be here to guide you through the show tonight and introduce you to 6 of Canada's finest and brightest authors, one of which is going to walk away with $100,000. I should, however, take a quick moment here to thank my pal, Rick Mercer, for agreeing to meet me in the Indigo bookstore to record our opening remarks. Rick was very concerned that a bookstore lacked danger and excitement, and he felt that it was very much outside the Rick and Jann brand. So I slapped him as hard as I could across the face, which got his attention immediately, and then I marched him over to the homeware section, and I bought him a giant scented candle. And that seemed to kind of get him back on track to where we are this evening. It had 8 wicks. 8 wicks, very expensive. The more wicks you have, the more expensive the candles are. We all know that. Anyway, thank you, Rick. I appreciated not having to wear a helmet or sign a waiver whenever I'm near you, so thank you for that. I have hosted a lot of different shows over the years. I've hosted the CSAs, the CMAs, I've hosted the Junos twice over a 20-year period. I actually should be very clear here. I'm not talking about an actual 20-year period. I'm talking about years apart. But I feel that as a woman in her very early to mid to late 50s, I need to be very straightforward about what I mean. And I am talking to you, Megan Gail Coles. I just wanted to be able to say your name in the monologue. I wanted to say it out loud, and that seemed like a great place to do it. I hope that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'd be lying to you, Megan, if I said that I had read your book. No, I seriously, I'm on the road all the time, but I did read, I read the title, which I thought was excellent, if I may say so. It was a really excellent, very catchy title. And I thought, if that's the title, and that's some marketing, and I think there's some people in this room that could learn a little bit from what you did there. Tonight, 6 authors, 6 incredible books, all vying for the most generous literary prize in the country. And I'll say it again because it's huge. $100,000 and $10,000 for all the runner-up finalists. So, absolutely. The Junos, for instance, do not give out cash prizes, which is dumb, now that I think about it. Honestly, a gift card would be a very nice gesture, along with the trophy. Anyway, I can already tell that this is a different kind of crowd altogether than the Junos. I very much doubt that there's going to be an after party in the penthouse suite here at the Four Seasons Hotel, involving an all-night jam with Blue Rodeo, 13 large Greek pizzas, and a ventriloquist named Leonard. And I'm not basing any of this on a personal, real experience. That was a made-up story. Our show is coming to you tonight on CBC, commercial-free, thanks to Scotia Wealth Management. You at home can binge this entire show, all one episode, right now, tonight, from wherever you're sitting. You won't have to wait till next week to hear who the winner is. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, so you don't even have to watch this show. Excuse me 1 second. I'm very sorry. I'm not going to be able to announce the winner. No, wow, that's a lot of swearing. That is a lot. There's someone really swearing in my earpiece. Wow, that was very colorful, whoever you are. You'd think this was hockey night in Canada. Okay, I won't tell you the winner quite yet. Oh, come on. You'll have to wait along with everybody else here in our live audience, and that includes you, Stephen Price. This is your name now being said in the monologue. And I think we've met before. You may not remember, but I do very clearly. It was a very stormy night in Victoria. It was 1998. You were bowling in the lane next to me, and one of your balls drifted over into my lane, one of your bowling balls. And we can talk about that later at Second Cup, because I know that's where all you people go after these events. I'm no dummy. You can deny it all you want. I will find you, Stephen, at some point, and we'll finish the conversation we started so many years ago. I hope you'll let me apologize for what happened. And anyway, I know I need to keep things going right along, but I can't help but notice that Margaret Atwood is indeed in the audience tonight. One of Canada's, yes, please, I mean, so deserved, one of Canada's most beloved and renowned authors. Tom, if you could just help me off the stage just very quickly. I've got shoes. If you wouldn't mind just scurrying up here. You know, I might be able to do it myself. Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you so much. According to Wikipedia, it is Margaret Atwood's 47th birthday. Wikipedia is not always accurate, but I think at the very least, I would like to sing you a song that I wrote for you this morning on the streetcar that CBC hired to bring me here to the event. And I just want to say having an entire row of seats to myself was such a treat. So thank you so much, CBC. Okay. Don't sing along, because it's not what you think. Happy birthday to you. Don't sing. You write such good books. Now Canada's famous for more than just maple syrup. I have another 17 verses if you wouldn't mind. No, someone's talking in my earpiece again. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to, but we'll do that later, yes? Great, because my friend Leonard is here and he's a ventriloquist, so maybe in the penthouse suite. Rohinton Mystery is also here. I have absolutely no joke to tell at all, because quite frankly, I'm very intimidated right now. But Mr. Mystery's book, that's a lot of alliteration right there, A Fine Balance that you wrote, but you know that. See, I'm nervous, because you know that you wrote that book. So why am I telling you? Why am I even still talking? But it was awarded the Giller of all Gillers. And because I'm pretty sure they didn't award you $100,000 again, some of the guys backstage, we've chipped in and we got you a generic gift card. And we have no idea at this point where you can spend it. I don't, you'll have. So I'm just one, like, with a selfie? No, I can tell by looking at your face. I'm just gonna just thank you so much for letting me. Margaret, no, you don't want a selfie. No, okay, well, whoa. I'm fine. I'm fine, I'm absolutely fine. Do you need this? Thank you, can you take this? I wasn't able to get the selfie. So sweet. Yeah. Good night. Oh, tonight we're gathered here to celebrate the very best in stories from the past year, from the Rockies to the Rock. Let's meet tonight's talented finalists. For his novel Reproduction, son of Brampton, Ontario, it's Ian Williams. Ian, holding your book is the closest that I will ever come to reproduction.
Makes two of us here.
Yes, thank you so much. We met in the elevator today?
We did, actually. You were walking your dog.
Yes. Originally from Montreal, the author of Dual Citizens, Alix Ohlin. For his collection of short stories, Immigrant City, Latvia-born David Bezmozgis. With her tale of Newfoundland violence and misogyny, small game hunting at the local Coward Gun Club, it's Megan Gail Coles. Also from Newfoundland with his shortlisted novel, The Innocents, Michael Crummey. And the author of the historical novel, Lampedusa, from Victoria, BC, it's Stephen Price. As I mentioned earlier, the show is commercial-free, which means this is one solid hour of celebration, and the excitement is everywhere tonight. We will be checking in with author Jael Richardson, who is also the amazing book critic for Q on CBC Radio. She's in the Scotia Wealth Management Library, which is right here backstage at the Four Seasons, where she'll get to know the authors and meet some amazing guests. So let's say hello to Jael Richardson.
Hi, Jan. So excited to be here with you today. I can tell you're a pro at this, but this is my very first time, so I'm both nervous and really excited. Mostly, I'm excited for Canada to meet all 6 of these incredible authors who I've gotten to meet on the road. I'm going to invite them in here to the library. We're going to have some great conversation. We're also going to have some special guests come through here, and we're going to just build a lot of excitement as we get towards the end of the show where we reach our winner.
We'll check in with you again soon, Jael Richardson. Jael, everybody, let's hear it for her. Yeah. Our first nominated book is Reproduction by Ian Williams, named one of 10 writers to watch by CBC. Critics praise this book's inventive style, calling it witty, playful, and disarmingly offbeat. And the jury said this engrossing story proves to be a masterful unfolding of unexpected connections. Please welcome Ian Williams.
Reproduction is the story of how families form, break apart, and reform themselves. The novel began with two questions. The first is a childish question that I asked myself in middle age, which is, where do babies come from? And the second is a formal question asked by the poet in me. How can a book reproduce itself? For the last decade, I've been fascinated by relationships, by intimacy, by the forms that we use, from the dating profile to the white lie, to mediate our connections.
The imagination is more powerful than reality. And so a lot of writers and creative people tend to live there and be comfortable there. The title determined the structure and the title determined the story. The title was there right from the beginning. So it starts off with 2 characters, and then it goes to 4 characters and 16 chapters, and then 256 small sections, which is 16 squared. And then in part 4, the book gets cancer. So the book finds these ways of reproducing itself.
And those are biological or mathematical, exponential, and in the end, finally, cancerous.
So the book starts off in a hospital room where a young black woman meets a middle-aged white man, and they're thrown together by an unfortunate circumstance. And then the book follows 40 years where they move in and out of each other's lives. They come from such different backgrounds and belief systems that the crossing of them produces a child that really has no choice but to be adrift, right, between these 2 worlds.
Army was making sure he would never tumble into what he feared most, what he smelled in her hair, poverty.
I think most of us are here because strangers became families. You see someone on the street whom you find interesting, and you pursue that person.
And so that person enters your life with her full history attached and eventually becomes grafted onto your own life.
In my heart, I'm a poet, but I do feel bilingual. I feel comfortable in both poetry and fiction. When I get stuck on a part of the novel, I write some poems, and then I get back to the novel. In the 7 years that it took to write this book, I was just thinking about getting a good book out and telling the story and being true to the concept and solving problems. But 7 years of living with something and someone and people with all of these characters, and it grows in your head and it stays with you and you can't put it down until it's finished.
Thank you, Ian. Now, let's head over to Jael Richardson in the Scotia Wealth Management Library. Jael?
Thank you, Jann. Now, I'm joined by Michael Crummey and Megan Gail Coles, both from Newfoundland. Before we get to that, I want to let you know that tonight, all of the finalists receive a one-of-a-kind leather-bound copy of their books. So you'll be going home with those today. But I mentioned Newfoundland. You're both from there. I want to start with you, Michael. What does it mean to be an author who's representing Newfoundland, writing a story based in Newfoundland, and really representing Newfoundland authors in a way here on this big stage tonight?
Yeah, it's kind of, Newfoundland's kind of a terrifying place to write about because I've never been anywhere where people feel like they own their history. And so it's, when you're writing about the place, you have to do all you can to try and get it right, or you will definitely hear about it. So, but also, I think people feel like they own their storytellers as well, and I think I've always been really proud to be one of those people out in the world telling the stories from the place that made me who I am.
Well, I've learned so much about Newfoundland from the both of you. I know when I was growing up, I wanted to be an actor, and I thought of the Oscars, and when I started to become a writer, the Gillers was the thing you were sort of thinking about, trying not to think about. And now you, Megan Gail Coles, this is your first debut novel. You're here at the Gillers. Give us a sense of what this feels like for you.
I mean, I think it's all very unreal to me right now. Perhaps in 2020 or even 2021, I will be able to reflect on this experience and feel whatever feelings I was having properly. But I'm just really excited for what's about to happen, and I'm looking forward to finding out who won.
Well, I'm so excited. You two both have inspired me. I've got to go see Newfoundland now. We're going to spend the rest of the night talking to the finalists here in the library. We're also going to have some special guests come through, but for now, thank you both so much for being here, and I'm going to send it back to you, Jann.
Thanks, Jael. Thank you. Here is a Giller fun fact. Our jury had to read 117 submissions before deciding on tonight's winner. And I'm sorry to say that my book was not one of them. Still, the Scotiabank Giller Prize couldn't happen without the hard work and the dedication of our jury, an award-winning panel of international literary heavyweights. I don't know if any of you know what it's like to read 117 books in a year, but I certainly don't. A big round of applause, please, for the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize jury. Author Donna Bailey Nurse, Scottish Sierra Leonean author Aminata Forna, Bosnian-American author Alexander Heyman, Canadian playwright Jose Teodoro, and jury chair author Randy Boyagoda. Yes, thank you, of course. Five people who have apparently never wanted to avoid doing jury duty. So, our next nominated book is Alix Ohlin's Dual Citizens. Reviewers have said her book seduces and have called it an engrossing, intricate tale. The jury said this novel's narrative split between Canada and the United States, between the urban and the wild, is fascinating and affecting. Please welcome Alix Ohlin.
Set in Montreal and New York City, Dual Citizens follows two sisters who are wildly different, yet intensely devoted. I wanted to write about the desire to be an artist and the complexities of that desire, especially for women. It's a novel about ambition, sisterhood, motherhood, and redefining what a family can be.
I just feel like if I have a sense of citizenship, it's to this world of story. It's the place where I feel most comfortable is sort of disappearing into the world of a book. In Dual Citizens, I really wanted to write a story that centered the complicated and intense and wonderful relationships that women have with each other. I really wanted to put that at the front of the book and to try to testify to the complexity and the power of those bonds. I had originally called it Robin and Lark, which are the two sisters at the heart of the book. There's a real duality between the two sisters and also their identities, their sense of themselves, their connections to their families and what they do. So it's a lifelong process of understanding what they mean to each other separately and together. I think for both the sisters in the book, their idea of what it would take to be fulfilled changes and evolves. For Robin, she starts out being trained as a classical pianist. She goes to Juilliard. And so she winds up being fulfilled by living this much wilder, stranger life. Lark, who tells the story, she begins her kind of college career by falling in love with film. And then where she finds her fulfillment is actually in editing. And she loves what she finds there, which is this ability to see people and sculpt their lives into stories. And throughout the whole book, part of what I was thinking about is the idea that there's no such thing as one story that we tell ourselves about our lives. All stories are constructed. Those are things that we invent. I'm definitely more comfortable observing than being at the center of attention. So for me to be able to write about people is kind of the perfect career of sort of inhabiting these alternate selves while getting to stay at home in my pajamas.
Thank you, Alix. And now let's check in with Jael backstage.
I'm backstage with Randy Boyagoda, author and chair of the Giller Prize jury. You went from 117 books to 6 shortlisted titles. How did you do that?
It involved a lot of really good conversation with my fellow jurors in our deciding what books most excited us, what books made us want to talk more and more about why we love the stories, the voice, the boldness, the imagination, the originality. All of that eventually got us down to 6.
One of the things I think is really cool about that, though, is we found out about the shortlist a few weeks ago in September, but the actual winner wasn't decided until today. Am I right?
That's right.
And how did you do that?
Well, we played a kind of like a Pokemon game where we put the author's name out there somewhere in the city and we ran around until we found it, and then we answered it that way. No, we had a conversation this morning, and it continued a conversation we've been having for months, and that conversation this morning resulted in our naming.
I don't think he's going to tell us right now, so we're going to send it back to you, Jann.
Thanks, Jael. There is such a buzz going on here at the Four Seasons, but this isn't the only Scotiabank Giller event happening tonight. Across the country, we have Giller Light Bashes that are celebrating right along with us, while at the same time raising money for Frontier College. Frontier College provides literary programs for children, youth, and adults in over 150 communities. So essentially, the Giller Light Bashes are to book lovers what the Grey Cup parties are to football fans, minus the beer helmets. Our next book is Immigrant City, a collection of short stories dealing with the immigrant experience that put David Bezmozgis on our shortlist for the 3rd time. The jury called this book a wise and assured collection, and critics said that his pointed, emotionally resonant tales are destined for anthologies of classic fiction. Please welcome David Bezmozgis.
Immigrant City is a collection of linked stories set mostly in contemporary Toronto, with detours to Montreal, Russia, and Latvia. Some stories concern recent immigrants, while others are about those who have been here for decades. It's also a book about family, largely about fathers and children, about being a father and being a child. Not one or the other, but as I've discovered, at the same time and perpetually. When we go to literature, when we go to art, we go for the truth. And some of the truth is revealing and uncomfortable and deals with, how we honestly react to the world around us. This collection tracks kind of over time my own experience as an immigrant. The community I'm writing about, this Russian Jewish community in Toronto, for my daughters, that life, that world, those people are not going to exist. A lot of my work in the back of my mind is also kind of a testament to leave to them, that if they're ever curious about the world that I came from, they can go to the books and see it. A lot of it is based on people that I've come across and people I've known, and people whose stories have moved me, and I've tried to figure out a way to create a form to contain them and communicate them to readers. The heart barks like a dog. This idea that the heart acts of its own volition and about being honest about your own heart. And I think I try to do that in all the stories. Go home and keep going. That's the last line in the story, Immigrant City. I guess it's true for immigrants, this idea of wanting to go back to where you came from in some physical or even psychological way. In terms of literature, in terms of art, it's about humanizing. If politically right now the idea of immigrants and immigration seems kind of controversial, having a work of art that humanizes people who seem other in a way that's engaging, in a way that is funny, in a way that's moving. That's what I was hoping to do.
Thank you, David. An incredible book that deals with today's issues. The momentum is building as we get closer to see who is winning the prize. Jael, who's with you backstage?
I'm with Ian Williams and Stephen Price. I'm so excited to talk with both of you. You've come in from BC, but I want to talk about your novels a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Stephen. You wrote this novel about a man who is recognized, writes a novel late in life, isn't recognized during his life, isn't recognized till after he dies. You've rewritten, you've sort of created this story about a true story. And how does it feel now that you're being celebrated, not only for his life, but for the work that you did?
Well, it feels terrific. I mean, obviously, it's a really lovely thing to be here. You know, Lampedusa, I think his story is kind of heartbreaking for so many artists or writers to think about, that he strived so hard to create this thing that mattered to him, that was beautiful, and he didn't live to see its success.
Well, we're living to see your success. I appreciate that. Ian, along with Rohinton Mystery, you and I are representing Brampton today, and part of your novel takes place in Brampton. What does it mean to celebrate, to write about a city that other people don't know about well, and to see it honored in this particular way?
I think people know Brampton, and I love you, Brampton, but I don't know if I could be like Drake and represent the whole. I don't know if I have the staying power to do that. I think if I'm representing anybody or anything, I'm representing those cities like Brampton that are off-centered, a little bit blurry, just outside of those areas of power, those concentrated areas. And so it's something like we're close enough to touch power, but we're not close enough to hold it. And I think there are a bunch of us in that situation, right? And the suburbs really encapsulates that well.
Well, I'm going to be calling you the literary Drake from now on. I don't care what other people say. So thank you for that. Thank you both for joining me here in the library as part of this commercial-free coverage on CBC. Back to you, Jann.
Oh, yeah, right. This is commercial-free. Because I was just coming to talk to you, to get something to eat, Tom. But there's no commercial. Can someone just order me a Virgin Caesar? Sorry, we'll just keep it going. I thought that there was a break, a small break, because I saw a couple people leaving. No, I'll eat the butter later. Thank you so much, Tom. Very generous. You know I like butter. Thank you. You know, it's not just live on CBC television tonight. We're also on CBC radio. I would be eating if I was hosting on CBC radio. You can also watch us on CBC Gem and live streaming on CBC Books. If you want to hear more about my outfit tonight, you can visit CBC Fashion. To learn how to do your hair like mine, you can go to CBC Salon. And you can learn about the construction of tonight's stage on CBC Carpentry. I think it's cherry wood, but honestly, it's better to check in with the experts at CBC. Thank you. Our next nominated book comes from the remote community of Savage Cove on the Great Northern Peninsula of Newfoundland. Small Game Hunting at the local Coward Gun Club is the debut novel for playwright Megan Gail Coles. Praised for its glorious use of language, critics describe it as a dark, taut, funny novel with a wry intelligence. The Giller jury says the kinetic work dazzles, challenges, and exhilarates. And I hope you don't mind, Megan, but I've used that for my Tinder profile. It was so good. The reviews were so good. Please welcome the wonderful Megan Gail Coles.
Small Game Hunting at the local Coward Gun Club is a novel about classism, racism, and misogyny in contemporary Newfoundland. The book examines power, privilege, and pain experienced by individuals attempting to survive systems of oppression enacted over centuries of colonial rule. Brutal inequality stalks many of us through the whole of our lives. Small game hunting at the local coward gun club chooses to face this injustice on the page.
I actually watched the announcement for the short list on Facebook with some friends of mine. I don't know if I'm allowed to say my actual reaction because this is going to be televised, but I wandered around my apartment saying holy f over and over and over again for the better part of 2 hours. The dogs thought I had done something wrong. They were very excited. I think of the novel as like an epic Newfoundland story. We are geographically isolated in a way that impacts all of our daily needs. So there is an element of entrapment. And so that kind of comes through in the narration, in the storytelling aspect. Small game hunting at the local Coward Gun Club is set in a fine dining restaurant in downtown St. John's. The book has a cast of characters that are from all parts of the island and takes place over the course of one day in February, which is the least kind month given our weather. The novel is based on the hierarchy inside of a restaurant. Iris and Olive are very much the heart of the book. They are very low on the bottom of the lot. I would tell people that the book is challenging. The book is not meant to be a lighthearted read. And so I need them to meet it with all the courage and generosity that they're capable of. Maybe in the end, even if you don't agree with the things that I said, we're engaged in some kind of dialogue if we're going to progress as a community, as a country, as a place. The novel for me is an act of resistance. Like, I am resisting social norms that put vulnerable people in my community in jeopardy. Even if that means I have to have difficult conversations on national television, there might be one person that needs to hear me say this. These are the kinds of things I want to take on in my work.
To finding out who will be getting the biggest literary prize in the country. Jael, what amazing people are you with right now backstage?
Well, I know you think the fun is happening out there, but backstage here in the library, we're having a lot of fun with two of my favorite funny people. I'm joined by Paul Sun-Hung Lee from Kim's Convenience and Ali Hassan, host of Canada Reads.
A lot of people probably think I'm Randy Boyagoda, but different guy.
Different brown guy. Yeah? But Ali, I mean, this is a perfect segue. You have just come off a cross-Canada comedy tour. I usually recommend books to you and talk to you about that. Were you reading books on your tour?
No, I was on tour with Rick Mercer. You can't read when you're with Rick Mercer. If Rick sees you reading, then he pulls the book away from you and then tells you a story because he's such a great storyteller, and then you're learning about his grade 10 drama teacher and how she got syphilis and how Rick was involved with that. And for example, but he's a great storyteller, so there's no reading.
Well, that's probably why he's not host anymore, right?
It could be a big reason as to why he got ejected in favor of Jen, yeah.
Well, Paul, this isn't your first time at the Gillers. I've noticed you've been here a few times. I'm usually stuck behind the scenes, so tell me, what is it about the Gillers that makes you come back for more?
You know what, it really is a celebration of the best in Canadian literature, and I think it's something that we really should be embracing more as a nation. I think $100,000 Scotiabank. Let's bump it up to $1 million, because we celebrate athletes, we celebrate a lot of other artists, so let's really pump up let's flex the muscles here and really start rewarding some of these authors with these big prize payouts. And I think it's absolutely important that we should start celebrating, that part of our heritage and really, really be proud of that. The fact that we do produce such great works of literary art. And I love the fact that we do celebrate this. And I get a chance to dress up a little bit, and it makes my wife really happy.
Well, you look very sharp. I'm totally behind the $1 million prize.
Scotiabank can never win. Like, we're commercial free, hundreds of thousands of dollars, people are still not happy. People, you're sensational.
Well, Jan, we're going to keep the party going here, but I'm going to send it back to you.
The road to the Scotiabank Giller Prize is a powerful one where the authors get to meet their audiences in person through an extraordinary event called Between the Pages, a national tour with the finalists that goes to many cities across Canada. The authors read from their books and get to meet their audience in person while sharing our country's love affair with literature. We're just moments away from finding out who will be taking home the Scotiabank Giller Prize. And remember, all of our runners-up tonight will be receiving $10,000. And of that $10,000, they only give as much of that to me as they absolutely feel they need to. But I do feel that through this experience, we've become friends tonight. Our next finalist is the acclaimed poet, Stephen Price. This is the second work of his to captivate the Giller jury. Critics have called Lampedusa wonderful and utterly unforgettable and richly textured, brimming with wise and lyrical insights. The jury says it's a story of a world in transition and of a character left behind by history is a powerful work from a masterful storyteller. Please welcome Stephen Price.
Lampedusa tells the true story of Giuseppe Tomasi, last prince of Lampedusa, as he struggles to write his masterpiece, The Leopard. Casting back across 2 world wars, the collapse of fascism, and the rise of the modern world, Lampedusa is a novel about art and love, memory and forgetting, despair and hope, but above all, it is about one person's awakening to the complicated possibilities of a life.
Sitting down and beginning a long creative work like a novel is a hopeful act. There's so much time involved, but it's a work that has a completion. There's a wholeness to it. There is an end point to a story. I think every cover is important. It's a way of introducing the feel of a book to a reader. And if you are lucky enough to have a sensitive designer who can translate the vision you have for the words into an image that lets the reader begin right on page 1 instead of, say, on page 0. The novel opens in 1955 in Sicily, post-war. So Palermo, every second building is in rubble. And for Lampedusa, Giuseppe Tomasi, it's a world in which he feels like he doesn't belong anymore. There's virtually just himself and his wife living in poverty in Palermo when the book opens. Over the course of my novel, which covers the last 2 years of his life, he finally sits down to write this novel he's dreamed of writing for 25 years. He did know that he was sick, and he knew that his time on this earth was limited, and yet he decided to spend it creating something that he hoped would be beautiful. Writing, proceeds at this glacial pace. You can work all day and have 4 sentences, and they can be beautiful sentences and you're very satisfied. Or you can work all day, you can produce a page, and then delete it all the next day. Every artist wants to build a body of work, something that matters to them, that strives to say something that you believe is true about the world, about the way you see the world. And I think that's what you want to leave behind you at the end.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, let's go backstage again with Jael Richardson.
I'm here with Alix, Ohlin, and David Bezmozgis. You both know that you're going home with leather-bound copies of your book, and you know this because you already have leather-bound copies of previous books because you've both been here before. So Alix, tell me, does it get easier the second time around?
I think it just feels even more miraculous. I mean, I don't know about you, David, this is not a usual everyday Monday night for me. So I guess I just feel really happy and grateful that this could happen to any writer, and yeah, really glad to be a part of it.
David, this is your third time on the shortlist, and there's a lot of excitement and hoopla and energy that goes into this, leading up to this. Do you get caught up in that? Do you have to remind yourself to find ways to keep the energy sort of contained?
Well, it's hard not to be aware of it. People email you, people are excited about it, and then we toured across the country, so it's hard not to be aware that you're in the midst of something special. So I think I appreciate that, but I think you also have to remember why it is that you're here. It's because you wrote a book, and you sat down and did the work, and as soon as you can turn your mind back to that, I think that's what you should do.
I love that. I did a bit of writing this morning just to inspire me as coming here, so thank you so much for being here in the library. We've talked to all of the finalists now, which means we're really close to announcing our winner. Back to you, Jann.
Thanks, Jael. This is so very close, and I am excited to see who will pay off their mortgage, who will pay off my mortgage, who will take a lavish trip with me. There are no rules on what you're allowed to do with the money, although again, I'm the host who awarded you the money, so remember please to tip your host. Our final author, no, I couldn't accept it. Our final author this evening returns to the Giller shortlist this year with The Innocents, a powerful tale that the Giller jury promises has the capacity to change the way the reader sees the world. Reviewers have called his work masterful and lauded his elegant prose along with his undeniable storytelling prowess. Please welcome Michael Crummey.
The Innocents takes place on an unnamed Newfoundland shoreline sometime long ago. Ada and Everett, aged 9 and 11, lose their parents and baby sister in one horrific winter, and they are forced to spend the years that follow struggling to survive the crucifying labor of the fishery and to try and make sense of the deepening mysteries of their own natures. If you put aside the incest and the cannibalism and the marauding pirates, The Innocents is a pretty straightforward coming-of-age story. I'm joking. There are no pirates.
It felt like I was telling a story that was important and that I wanted to see through. And I think for a writer, that's all you can ask out of a book. That's the only reason to write in the end. It's a little bit intimidating to be writing about Newfoundland, because if you get things wrong, people will let you know you got things wrong. The novel is the story of two orphan children at the turn of the 18th century in an isolated cove on the north coast of Newfoundland. They're 11 and 9 years old, and they know nothing about the outside world and are forced to try and figure out who they are into the mystery of what adolescence is. The seed for this book is a true story. A clergyman came upon an orphan brother and sister living alone in a cove, and he sussed out pretty quickly that the sister was pregnant and assumed, rightly I'm sure, that the brother was the father of the child. The only reason they survive, the circumstances that they survive, is because they're living to help the other person survive. And that was the story that I wanted to tell. Because of the subject matter, I had never wanted to write it. So once I started, I just thought, okay, the hell with it, I'm just gonna do it as quickly as I can. Well, my father started fishing when he was 9 years old. And there's a moment in the book that I took from something Dad told me about. He said when the fish were running really strong, they slept about 3 hours a night. His hands were claws, like he just could not move them from the work. And all he had to try to get them working again, he would piss on his hands in the morning. My mother told me this after the first Giller event. that there was a moment he was sitting at the table in his rented tux. He was lost for a moment, and she said, what are you thinking about right now? And he looked at her and he said, well, I'm a long way from pissing on my hands.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go backstage to Jael Richardson for the final time tonight, who has some special guests with her in the Scotia Wealth Management Library. Jael?
Thank you, Jann. I'm so excited to be here because we're with two special guests, Essie Adujan and Michael Redhill, the most recent winners of the Giller Prize, who you've been through all this. You can offer a bit of insight into what's going on. We're about to announce the winner. And so I want to go to you, Essie. What's going through the minds of these authors as they sit there waiting for this moment?
I mean, it's such an intense moment. I think for any author, you're thinking, you know, of course I haven't won, but then maybe I have, and you sort of go back and forth, and you're racked with anxiety, or at least I was, and then it's over. So it's just a really fraught moment.
And Michael, I mean, we're talking about how the authors are feeling and what they're thinking, but also on a practical level. I heard the year that you won, there was $411 in your bank account. So we're about to give $100,000 to someone. What does that do for a Canadian writer?
Well, winning a prize this size changes a lot for a writer. I mean, we usually cobble our livings together and try to make time to write, but it's a huge moment for the person who wins, and sometimes difficult to sort of make it work with your idea of yourself as a writer. It's a lonesome thing, but to come out and be in the spotlight is a huge deal.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. We're so close to announcing the winner that the two of you actually have to literally run back to there. Backstage, it's my last time talking to all of you, and I want to say a special thank you for having me. It was a privilege to be here to celebrate authors in this way on this commercial-free segment on CBC. Thank you so much. Back to you, Jann. Let us know who wins.
Thank you, Jael. You did an amazing job. Jael Richardson, everybody. Jael. You're right. Commercial-free, which means I have to use the washroom, which means that all of Canada probably needs to use the washroom to find out, you know, if they can go and use the washroom too. But right now, we have another round of applause for all our finalists tonight. David Bezmozgis, Megan Gail Coles, Alix Ohlin, Michael Crummey, Stephen Price, and Ian Williams. Please welcome to the stage the two people without whom this evening wouldn't be possible. The Executive Vice President, Retail Distribution for Scotiabank, John Doig, and the Executive Director of the Scotiabank Giller Prize, Ilana Rabinovich.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an incredible honor to be here with you all tonight to celebrate the very best in Canadian fiction.
Please remember that all 6 finalists have written worthy, deserving, wonderful books. In fact, as my father always said, for the price of a meal in this town, you can get all the books. So, buy the books and eat at home.
Alana, you're right, but there can only be one winner, and we're about to find out who that is.
Ready when you are.
And the winner of the 2019 Scotiabank Giller Prize is
Ian Williams for his novel, Reproduction.
Well done. So good.
Well done. Congratulations.
Hey, everyone. Like, you have no idea. You have no idea, like, how special this is for me. So I've got like notes here of people that I need to thank, but maybe I'll just start like with my heart first. And Margaret Atwood over there is the first book I bought with my own money at a bookstore in Brampton. And I bought that book because I had good public school teachers like Mr. Lusick and Mrs. Colton who pushed poetry on us, and this was my way, right? So, to the paper. Thank you. This list of everyone on this list, Michael and Megan and Stephen and Alix and David, incredible, right? I wish we could sort of go on forward with this indefinitely, and I think we have, right? I think we'll see each other. I don't know, Alix will have a barbecue or something. The jury thanks Randy, Donna, Jose, Aminata, and Sasha as well. My agent, Denise Bukowski, who was after this book for so many years. Ann Collins, agent found the right place. To Michael Reynolds at Europa. Italian and English publishers as well. Some institutions, the Calgary Distinguished Writers Program and the Banff Center, where I wrote much of this book. The creative writing program at UBC, the best place that I've ever worked. To families, everyone in the acknowledgments at the back of the book, my family, my mother especially, all my love to her, to church communities, black communities, the Giller family and the Rabinoviches. You know, there's a lot of talk about the evil of capitalism, but every once in a while we find people like Jack Rabinovich and Scott Griffin, people who can work within the system to do things and follow the passions of things they love. So if you're wealthy and you've got tons of money, support the ballet, support the French horn, support whatever it is that moves you. Thank you so much.
That's it. That is our show for tonight, so thank you very much on behalf of all the authors. It's been a wonderful night, and I know my bookshelf is richer than I thought and a better place for having these 6 books by these fine authors on it. Thank you to Jael Richardson, and thanks to all of you for watching or listening at home or at the Giller Light Bashes across the country. Keep supporting Canadian literacy. Thank you to all the authors, and congratulations to this gentleman right here.
Your money is more than numbers in a bank account. It's how you care for your family while planning their future and treating them today. Because a bank account that does more means you will